Hi guys, I was literally just sat down here, getting ready, got all of my orcs out and got the army that I won the Coventry 3-day super major with. And then I was going to do a roster review, and GW have just released the balance data slate, and it's just killed off my army completely. So there's no point doing a roster review about it. Instead, today we're going to look at this new emergency FAQ, the balanced data slate that GW have released. So this was my prize for winning the Coventry Super Major. I think it's really cool. I took an Orc army and I got an Orc weapon for winning, and I like it. It makes me feel strong. It's a cool prize. But guys, I was gonna do that roster review, and all of a sudden, I had 3 units of Megatruck scrap jets in my army, 3 units of Rucker truck skig buggies in my army, 6 aircraft models in my army, and as we go through this balanced data slate today, you're going to realize exactly why I didn't do a roster review on my army telling people how it all works, because it's gone. Right, let's jump straight into it then, guys. The balanced data slate. Now, reading through this, I'm actually quite happy. I know there's going to be a lot of people out there who have orc armies like the one I do, and they're going to be really upset and stuff like that. That I think it. We'll talk about the changes as they come and stuff like that. But I think overall for the game, this is it's a good change that GW have done. Good changes. Right. So right at the top of the balanced data slate, there is a universal matched play rules. There's a little box, and they've just done a universal rule. This works on all factions, all armies. When mustering your army for a matched play game, it cannot include more than 1 aircraft model if you are playing a combat patrol or incursion size game, more than 2 aircraft models if you're playing a strike force size game, or more than 3 aircraft models if you're playing an onslaught size game. Now, onslaught is big. It's not for tournaments really. Tournament play is always strike force size games, 2,000 point games, pretty much all the time. That's what we care about. So with the strike force size game, 2 aircraft is what you're allowed in your army, not aircraft units either. So don't go thinking that, if you're guard, you can take these units of 3 Valkyries, 2 units of 3 and have more than everyone else. No, man, it's 2 aircraft models in your army. That's huge. So now you're beginning to understand why we did not do a roster review on Orcs today. 6 aircraft I had in my army. Now you can only take 2. Now, I do think that this is a brilliant change for the game. This coming from somebody who's used 8 Eldar planes. I've used 6 AdMech planes in recent tournaments, and I've also used 6 Orc planes at this past weekend's tournament. And I'm a very happy man that they've limited it to 2 aircraft, because the reason why I was using those is because they were amazing. They were great in the game. If you're looking to try and win the tournament, why would you not take them? That's the way that I was looking at it. And now that only 2 aircraft models are allowed, I think it does just that one rule itself will change the meta quite a lot. Right, yeah, I think just that one rule will change the meta quite a bit. AdMech planes, people like to take 3 of the las cannon planes and a couple of bombers, normally 1 or 2 bombers and 3 las cannon planes. Now that list is dead. They're only allowed to take 2. And my personal opinion is there will not be bombers anymore. There will just be 2 las cannon planes, because the las cannon planes are still very, very strong. They do a lot. They give you reach, which not many of the things in your army can do. So I think we'll still be seeing 2 flyers, especially of the stronger kind in people's armies. And with Orcs too, 2 WASBomb blaster jets is still incredible. So, but it's just not like broken now. I think 2 planes is manageable for most armies. You can deal with 2 planes if your opponent has that. So I think that is a fantastic change. Right, the next faction is Adeptus Mechanicus, but they're just points updates. So there's no rules changes for them, it's just point updates. So we're going to talk about them in a bit because they have their own page. And also Dracoric are exactly the same. Adeptus Mechanicus and Dracoric have just got points changes, so we'll talk about those after the main changes. So, first of all, Astra Militarum. I've got loads of friends who are guard players, and they're going to be very, very happy that this has come out. They're not, like you said, these aren't broken, super optimized changes that armies have got, but they're just nice little bonuses that people will be happy about. The nerfs to some of the top armies people will be happy about, and then their own army getting a little bit of a buff means that it's going to really shake up the meta, in my opinion. There's going to be loads of different builds that we're going to see on top tables now. So Astra Militarum, change the save characteristic of Astra Militarum Leman Russ models to a 2+. This has been a long time coming, man. I don't know why they didn't have a 2+ armor save anyway. The fact that they've got the same armor save as like a Marine is a bit bonkers. I mean, it's a toughness 8 leviathan of a tank, absolute monster of a tank, and it had a 3+ save. So them having 2+ saves, I think, is going to have them see some more play in guard lists, which I think is always a good thing. The second update that they've got, when using the tank orders ability of a regiment tank commander model, you can select one friendly regiment vehicle unit, excluding Titanic, of course, within 6 inches of that regiment tank commander model, instead of selecting a regiment Leman Russ unit. So before, they could only do their tank orders on Leman Russ units. That's the reroll once to hit aura, the reroll number of shots aura, all of those kind of things. Not aura, order, sorry. And now you can do it on any regiment vehicle unit. So, for example, you no longer have to go, right, I'll be Katachan just so I can take Harker, sit him at the back of the board and waste points just on this character that gives reroll once to hit to my Manticore. You can now, for example, go, the tank commander is going to issue an order to the Manticore and give it reroll once to hit, or reroll number of shots, which I think is great. It gives you some play. It gives you more options. It's more diverse. So I think we'll see a couple more tank commanders on the board now, which I think is good. And they'll have 2-up saves. So why wouldn't you take them? Then the third change that Guard have got, each time a regiment unit with the voice of command ability, so that's like a company commander, a platoon commander, the orders that they can issue, you can select one friendly, issues one of the following orders to a regiment infantry unit, that same order can be issued to one or more other friendly regiment infantry units, excluding officers, that are within 6 inches of the unit the order was originally issued to. So, and there's a long list. It's like take aim, first rank fire, second rank fire, bring it down, forwards for the Emperor, get back in the fight, and fix bayonets. There's 6. And I believe there's 7 generic orders. And the 7th one is move, move, move. I'm bloody happy that move, move, move was not on that list, because move, move, move is a very powerful ability. Being able to do that in an aura like this would just be insane. But this is a nice buff for other things. Like, for example, first rank fire, second rank fire allows guardsmen to fire double shots with their lasguns, which I think is great. You know, they're only strength 3. It just gives them a little buff. But so, what it says is, if there's a guardsman unit here, and I've issued an order to that guard unit. So I issued first rank fire, second rank fire to that unit. I can also issue that order to every unit within 6 inches of the unit that I gave the order to. So if there were like 50 guardsmen there and you did it on the middle unit, all 50 of them would get first rank fire, second rank fire. Now, you know, that's not stupidly overpowered, but it's a really, really cool thing to have. And you can't just, you can spring that on people and go, bang, first rank fire, second rank fire. Now, these 40 guys have got loads of, like over 100 shots. They're only strength 3, so they're nothing game breaking, but you know, every shot counts, man. Every shot counts for the Emperor. So that's Astra Militarum. Let's have a look at Imperial Knights and Chaos Knights, because they got the same updates. So Imperial Knights and Chaos Knights together. Right, next we're on to Imperial Knights and Chaos Knights. All of you Knight players out there must be really, really happy right now. I know David, sitting there editing a video, is just, I can hear him laughing away, going, yes, yes, about his Imperial Knights. He's so happy with this new rule. I think this rule should have been in a long time ago. I think this makes sense for Knights. They are behemoths, you know, they're not like tiny little models. So let's have a look what they get. First of all vehicle models with the Imperial Knights or Chaos Knights faction keyword gain the following ability. Towering Foe. This model counts as 5 models when determining control of an objective marker. If this model is a Titanic model, it instead counts as 10 models when determining control of an objective marker. It was so silly when you could run up and put a Rhino on an objective that's got an Imperial Knight on it and go, right, that's contested. You're not scoring that anymore. And it was just like, what? It's a Titan standing next to a Rhino. Why would it not be capturing that objective anymore? That was silly. So now every big knight, like big knight, Crusaders, Castellans, Valiants, They all count as 10 models when determining control objective marker. This is going to help them play the mission a lot better. That was the one weakness the Knights had that really hurt them, is they were not great at the missions at all. And this is really going to help. I think we're going to see a lot more Imperial and Chaos Knights on the table now. But the second buff is actually very big. If every model from your army has either the Chaos Knights or Imperial Knights faction keyword, excluding agents of the Imperium or unaligned units, then all Armiger class and War Dog models from your army gain the objective secured ability. That is class. I think that's a really, really cool update there that they've got. So if you run pure Chaos Knights or pure Imperial Knights, you're essentially, the things that you're taking in your army as troops, which are baby knights, they're all going to gain the objective secured ability. And I think that's right. That's what they should have. And remember, they count as 5 models. They're not Titanics, they don't count as 10, but they're still a Knight model. They're still a towering foe. So each Armiger class or War Dog model from your army is actually going to count as 5 models and have the objective secured ability when taking control of objectives. And that is really going to help them play the mission. How annoying was it? Guard players, I'm talking to you. How annoying was it when somebody could touch an objective with 1 Imperial Guard and go, objective secured, that's mine now, not yours. That was very silly, I think. This is going to level the playing field a little bit. So those are the updates that Imperial Knights and Chaos Knights got. To be honest, I don't think they need much more. I think their survivability is fairly decent. Their damage output can be bonkers if you build them correctly. And now their one weakness, which was not being able to play the mission properly, is kind of being balanced out a little bit, and they can play the mission a lot better than they used to before. So I think we're going to see Knights around quite a bit more. Let's go on to the next faction, and that's Chaos Space Marines. So guys, as a Chaos player, everybody knows that I absolutely love Chaos. One of my favorite armies. It goes Orcs, then Space Wolves, and then Chaos of all kinds. Those are my order of favorite factions, and yeah, I'm a Chaos lover at heart. I think they're absolutely fantastic and they're really cool. And I was a little bit disappointed with the Chaos Space Marines update here. I was expecting a fair amount more. The one change they did get is pretty decent. So if we have a look at that, change the Death to the False Emperor ability, which used to be when fighting Imperium units, every hit roll of a 6 gave you an additional hit or attack. I think it might have been attack in the fight phase. But here, change the Death to the False Emperor ability to read, each time a model with this ability makes a melee attack, a hit roll of 6+ scores 1 additional hit. So now this works on everybody. It's not just against Imperium units. Whoever you fight, you get an additional hit on a hit roll of a 6+ in combat. It does not say unmodified. I don't know whether that's going to change, whether they will make it unmodified, but for the time being, it says a hit roll of 6+ scores 1 additional hit. So you can do things like use prescience, the power prescience, and if you use that, then you get +1 to hit. So then it would be a 5+ scores 1 additional hit, 5+ and 6+, which is pretty good. That's going to be helpful. But that is the only change that Chaos Space Marines got. I think a little bit underwhelming there. Not as good as what other factions have got, especially considering that there's still only 1 wound. I thought that's what Chaos Space Marines would get in this update. I thought, they'll level them out with the other Marine factions. Your Raptors, your Marines, all of that kind of stuff will go up to 2 wounds a model. Your Terminators will go up to 3 wounds a model like everybody else's Terminators. Unfortunately, that has not happened. GW has not let Chaos players have that yet. But, it will soon come. It will soon come. And, yeah, bit underwhelming for the Chaos Space Marines there. Let's have a look at Necrons. So Necrons have got a cool change. I know Dan and David, who absolutely love Necrons and both have massive collections of Necrons, and then they argue over whose Necrons we should use on a battle report. Definitely David's. They look so much better than Dan's. But anyway, yeah, don't tell Dan. So yeah, I know they always argue over whose army needs to be used on battle reports, but Necrons have got a cool change. And we always used to say this. Dan was like, oh man, every army that's coming out, there's like 10, 11 units in Sisters, 15, 20 units in Marines, and 10 units in Space Wolves, and all of these factions, Dracoric as well, they're like 10 units in there. All of these factions are having 10 or more units that have all got the core keyword, meaning that loads of the abilities in your army that are locked to being able to go on core units, they're just like everywhere on these armies. They can utilize their abilities in the most optimized way. But Necrons are sat there with warriors, death marks, immortals, and Lichguard. They have 4 core units in their whole codex. And I know Dan and David were not very happy about that. And I was like, you know what? It is true. What you're saying is true. They've got four core units and everybody else has like 10 or more. So it didn't seem like the right thing. And that's why I think Necron players are going to be very happy with this. Add the core keyword to the keyword section of the following data sheets. Canoptek Acanthrites. They're from the Imperial Armor Compendium. They are Forge World. Canoptek Reanimators. Canoptek Wraiths. Flayed Ones, Locust Destroyers, Locust Heavy Destroyers, Ophidian Destroyers, Scorpec Destroyers, and Triarch Praetorians. Those 9 Necron units have all gained the core keyword. So Necrons have gone from having 4 units that they can use all their abilities on that affect core units only, to having 13 units that they can do this on. This is a massive difference. It means things like Ophidian Destroyers and Canoptek Wraiths and Flayed Ones can all have My Will Be Done put on them. So they get +1 to hit. And Wraiths, I know people love Wraiths. They're so durable. They do hit hard in combat, but their drawback is they're hitting on 4s. Use My Will Be Done on them. They'll be hitting on 3s. You can now use Resurrection Orbs to bring back Wraiths and Flayed Ones, because they're core units. I think that's incredible. There are quite a few stratagems in that book as well that affect core units. So, oh man, that core keyword is so helpful. And these guys, I know people out there who are going to be going to tournaments that absolutely love Necrons, and they'll find ways to optimize their list so much more now that their units have access to the core keyword. Right, now guys, we're looking at Orcs. No. As an Orc player, oh, this hurts my soul, man. No, I think, in all seriousness, this is a great change for the game. What Orcs got hit with here, it's a great change for the competitive meta, yes, but I don't agree with what they've done here. Now, that's not just because I am an Orc player. I'm speaking for all Orc players here. So this is the change that's hit Orcs, right? When mustering an Orcs army, it cannot include more than 1 of each of the following units. That is a huge nerf, more than 1 of each of the following units. And then it goes on to list all 5 buggies. So Boomdacker Snaz Wagons, Custom Booster Blasters, Megatruck Scrapjets, Rookatruck Squig Buggies, and Shock Jump Dragsters. You can only have 1 unit of any of those in your army. To me, that is absolutely bonkers. So I think it's good for the game because when people were running 9 Megatruck Scrapjets, including myself, and 9 Rookatruck Squid Buggies, I think that was too powerful. They were too cheap points-wise for what they did. And it wasn't a great thing for the meta or the game to have that in there. But I think the way that they've handled it is absolutely terrible because there are people out there who have gone out and bought 9 Rookatruck Squig Buggies because, it's 3 different units. And, you're always told you can use 3 of each data sheet. In any army, you can use 3 of any data sheet of a unit. So you should be able to take 3 units of something. So off the back of that, they've gone and bought 9 Rookatruck Squig Buggies or 9 Megatruck Scrapjets. And now GW have gone, well, no, middle finger to you. You can only use 1 unit. So you can only use a maximum of 3. So the other 6 that you spent £200 on, they are useless to you from now on. I think that's a very poor way of handling it. That's not what they should have done. They could have done multiple things. A points increase. A points increase would have really hurt these kind of armies that were abusing the buggies like this. Just a change on the profile of their weapon. If they were strength 5 and then they made them AP -1 instead of AP -2, and if they made them D6 shots instead of 2D6, because they would still be very good, but they just wouldn't be obnoxious anymore. I think things like that would have been, a lot more acceptable for Orc players than this change. I think this change is very, very harsh. I'm a little bit disappointed, I can't use more than 3 scrap jets in an army or stuff like that, and more than 3 Rucker trucks. But, I will adapt, I will move on, I will change things about my Orc army. I can still take a unit of 3 scrap jets, a whole unit of 3 squig buggies, 2 WAS bomb blaster jet planes in my army, and then I can look at some of the combat elements of Orcs now and actually have a more all-round cool army rather than just all planes and buggies. So I think it is a lot better for the meta. But like I say, if Orc players are upset about this, I can totally understand, because it's not just like a small nerf. It's like, go and chuck 2/3 of your buggies in the bin, mate, because you're not allowed to use them anymore. And that doesn't sit right with me, because people have only just bought these models and now they're absolutely screwed. I think changes to rules would have been a lot better for them than doing something like this, really. Right, so that's Orcs. Now we're going to have a look at AdMech and then Dracoric, because they've actually had points changes, which are going to affect the top tables quite a bit, in my opinion. Right then, guys, the AdMech points changes. Now, as somebody who plays AdMech, I've always said this. When I was taking AdMech armies, like competitive AdMech armies, to tournaments, I felt like I had 200 points, 300 points extra on the board than I should. I feel like more than my opponent. I'm like, yeah, this feels like I've got too many units and models in my army. I shouldn't really be able to fit this much in. When I look at what everybody else has in their army, I think it's a bit too much, really. So I think these points changes are actually pretty fair. These aren't too bad at all. I think they balance AdMech quite a lot. They don't make them unusable. I still think AdMech are a great top tier army with these point changes. But I think they are up there now with other armies. They've dropped down a level and they're in with everybody else at the top. Before, they were head and shoulders above everybody, and that wasn't right. So I quite like this. Right, we're not going to look at every single one of the points changes. We're going to look at the ones that were being used on top competitive tables, on the top tables, and what's changed with those. So first of all, you had Marshals as the cheapest HQs in every army, because they were giving core units reroll 1s to wound. They've gone from 45 points to 55. Not a massive change, 10 points. But when you add up the changes on all of the units that were being used on top tables, you'll see why it balances them out very nicely. So Marshals have gone to 55 points. Now, most people had 2, maybe 3 Marshals in their army. So that's a 20 to 30 point increase. Then a Manipulus. People had a Tech Priest Manipulus. Pretty much every AdMech player had a Tech Priest Manipulus in their army with the Holy Order Logi. Now, a Manipulus has gone up to 80 points. And then the Holy Order Logi has gone up to 40 points. So both the character and their upgrade have gone up in points. Now, a Manipulus before, with the Logi ability, was 105. It is now 120. So that's another 15 points increase in a list of competitive AdMech. Then, if you look at the troops, the most common troops that were being taken were Vanguard units and Skitari Rangers. Now, Skitari Rangers have gone up by 1 point a model. That doesn't seem too bad. And then you go, right, okay, people take blocks of 20 Rangers because that's how you optimize the buffs that you can put on them. So you go, okay, that's another 20 points. The unit has gone up by 20 points. But then you go, that enhanced data tether that everybody takes because you can use warlord traits through it and multiple abilities in your army, that's gone from 5 to 10 points. That's now a 25 point increase on your unit. Then the omnispecs that you 100% take, because it means that your unit, as long as the sergeant has an omnispecs or one guy in the unit has an omnispecs, the unit can ignore the light cover on other units. So yeah, units don't get the benefits of light cover when they're shot by a unit that's got omnispecs in. Now, when you're shooting people with 40 to 60 shots with stratagems at AP1 or AP2 when buffed by a Manipulus, ignoring cover is a massive ability. Having that for 5 points was wrong. Now that it's 10 points, that's another 5 point increase. So just to take a 20-man unit with an enhanced data tether and an omnispecs, you've got to pay an extra 30 points to what you were paying before. Now, a lot of people had like 2 Ranger blobs. Some people even had 3 Ranger blobs in their army. And, you know, stretching to 4 at what some of us were doing at LGT. Now, if you wanted to take 3 extra units of Rangers, you got to find 90 points in your army. So that's like 20 points for your Marshals, 15 points for your Manipulus, 90 points for your Rangers. All of a sudden, you've got to find 120 points from somewhere. So, you know, I think that's fairly reasonable because they were a little too good for their points before. I say a little too good because I don't want to rant about it, but they were very, very bonkers. The next most common units in people's armies going down here when we go to elites were Sakarian Infiltrators and Sakarian Ruststalkers. Now, I know that they were both 17 points a model, and they were good. They were good for 17 points a model, but I think they were slightly better than what every other army's equivalent to them was for their points. So at 17 points, they were a little bit better than what other armies could take for the same amount of points. Now they've gone up to 19 points a model. Not a massive change, but across a unit of 5, that's 10 points. Across a unit of 10, that's 20 points. And now I think they're about right. They're still very good. They do a lot of damage, but they're probably pointed correctly now, which is very nice. Iron Strider Ballistari. The chickens with the las cannons on them. They were 75 points with las cannons. That was incredible. Like, for what they did, that was so bonkers good. Now they're 85 points a model. Not a massive increase. They're still very good. This is the thing. This is a trend here with the AdMech army. Every points thing I'm saying, I'm like, they're still very good. They're probably worth their points. Why not take them? So, you know, but you've got to find points to fit them in now while dropping things from your army because you know, everything good in AdMech has gone up, which is something, you know, to note. So Iron Strider Ballistari, but you're probably going to see 1 or 2 of them in people's armies now instead of 3 or 4, which is a great change for the game. Cerberus Raiders. This is the one that shocked me. Cerberus Raiders are now 20 points per model. That's 4 points per model. I did not think they were going to get hit that hard. 1 or 2 points is what I thought was going to happen to them. They were 16 points a model. So I thought they'd go to 17, maybe 18 points a model, but 20, that's very dear, man. A unit of 3 Cerberus Raiders has gone from 48 points to 60 points. Now, the thing is, if you look at what other armies get, like an Intercessor, Space Marines get an Intercessor, that dude is 20 points. He is toughness 4 with 2 wounds. These Cerberus Raiders are also toughness 4 with 2 wounds, but they get to move 12 inches. They have stratagems to run away when you declare them as a charge target. They have a 5+ invulnerable save, and they are also snipers. So I suppose when you look at it that way, 20 points is a fair price for them. It just seems like a big increase because they've gone up 25%. They've gone from 16 points up to 20, and you're like, oof, quite dear. But now a unit of 9 of them, what that people used to take to assassinate characters, instead of being 144 points, is now 180. And people have to think, is that worth another 40 points? Should I squeeze that in my army, or should I drop that now so that everything else still fits? Which, you know, is something that AdMech players are going to have to think about. Then in heavy support, a Scorpius Disintegrator was the main thing people were using in heavy support. That thing was 145 points shooting out on its sight, and it still is 145 points because it's good for those points. It's not overpowered for those points. It's about right. And then lastly, we come on to the planes, the AdMech Flyers, and these have been hit, and I think fairly. You know, they're still not overcosted by any means. They're still very good for their points. They haven't gone up to the same points as Orc planes, and that tells you that they've not been hit very hard. So a Fusilier and a Stratoraptor, those are the ones that everybody was using. Now, a Fusilier was the bomber. It used to be 130 points, and it is now 150. So it's gone up 20 points, which is what it used to be if you put a chaff launcher on it. But now you've got to buy the chaff launcher on top of that. So essentially, and the Stratoraptor is exactly the same. It's gone up 20 points from 160 to 180 points before chaff launchers. So that means that the planes now are what they used to be after you put the -1 damage war gear or a chaff launcher on them. They were 180 with -1 damage. Now they're 180 before -1 damage. I think that's a pretty fair change. I don't think AdMech players can moan. I don't think AdMech players can moan at these points increases at all. So I think they'll be pretty happy that they'll be pretty happy that unlike Orcs, they haven't been nerfed through the ground. Orc players will be upset because they've been nerfed right through the ground, and the units that they had are, quite a lot of them are unplayable now. Whereas with the AdMech, there's still a lot of play to be had here. So yeah, the Fusilier is now 150, 170 with a chaff launcher, and a Stratraptor is now 180, 200 with a chaff launcher. Now, in my personal opinion, I still think we're going to see a lot of AdMech lists that have got 2 Archaeopter Stratoraptors with chaff launchers on, because it's 400 points. You know, it's 20% of your army, but they do a lot of damage. They take a lot of firepower to take down, and they give you maneuverability and options in the game. We are still going to see 2 Stratoraptors in people's list with last cannons on them. So just to give you an idea there, guys, this is my LGT list. Now, if you total the LGT list that I had, which was 2,000 points, it comes to 2,285 points. So when I said it feels like I was playing 200 or 300 points up, according to GW, I was by their points changes, you know. That list now comes to 2,285. So if I wanted to take a similar list, I would have to figure out which 285 points of that needs to go away before I put it back on the table. So lastly, we come on to Dracoric, guys. And for Dracoric, again, there are quite a few points changes. To be honest, just like the AdMech, not much can be said about them. I think they are fair. There's nothing wrong with these points changes. I think Dracoric, a lot of people did feel that when they played against Dracoric, they just couldn't trade with them because their units were too cheap and did a lot of damage for the points that you're paying for them, which I agree with. I've used Dracoric a lot in this edition at multiple events, and played on top tables with them quite a lot, and both with and against them. And it does feel like, you know, they're hard to trade against because they're so cheap. So let's have a look at some of the point changes they've got. Drazar stayed the same at 145. He did go up in an FAQ, like on the Warhammer community page, which from 135 to 145, I believe. I think that's a fair change. He's an absolute monster for his points. An Archon is 70 points. Nothing much to be said there. Homunculus at 70. A Succubus, though. A Succubi were being used a lot in people's armies, and people had 2 of them. But they were very cheap for 60 points. I don't think that was a right points costing for them at all. They've now gone up to 80 points. They've gone up by 33%. So, you know, at least GW acknowledged there was a problem with them, and they've kind of addressed it a little bit by making them 80 points. I think if a Succubus was 90 points to 100 points, I would still take 1, possibly 2 of them, because they do an incredible amount for their points. They pretty much always trade up when you put them on the table and charge them into a unit that they're going to get rid of. But 80 points, fair change. 20 points increase for 1 character. That's toughness 3 with 5 wounds. I'll take that. It's a pretty good change. Then we go into the troops. Now, Cabalite Warriors are still 8 points a model, which is fair. I didn't think they needed much of a change to them anyway. Witches have gone to 12 points a model. Now, that's good, because I think witches were the troop choice of, you know, they were the most popular choice of troop for Dracoric players. Witches were bonkers for 10 points. Having a 10-man unit for 100 points and then 110 with a Shardnet and Imperial could stop people falling back, pumping out 40 to 50 attacks or strength 4, spending 2 CPs for full rerolls to wound. That 110-point unit would often take out 250-point units from a game. I've done that with my witches multiple times. So having them at 100 points was a bit ridiculous. Now that there's 130 points for that same unit, people have to think twice about how many of these they want in their army. So witches at 12 points a model, yes, their damage output is insane, and you might think, well, hold on, you're saying that a 110-point unit could kill a 200-point unit. Now it's a 130-point unit killing a 200-point unit. That's still trading up. Yes, they are still trading up. But this is what GW should be doing with armies that are overpowered. They shouldn't be nerfing them through the ground so that they're unusable. They should still be making them competitive, able to compete with the other top-tier armies, but just pulling them back a little bit and going, like, you don't trade as well as you were before. That's the whole point of this, which I think is good. I think a 2-point increase on witches is nice, because yes, it's a 130-point unit that could go up there and nuke a 200-point unit, but look how fragile they are. If anything even blows at them when they get out of a raider, they're dead. And that's one thing that you have to, you have to take into consideration as well, is when you buy a unit of witches, you need a transport for them. They don't just get there magically into combat. you need to buy a Raider for them, and they've gone up. So you're paying like 200 points for this unit at this point, maybe a little bit more. So when they kill a 200-point unit, you're like, okay, well, you did have to pay for the transport that got them here, and now that transport's not really doing much. It's got one Darklands shot on it. So I think you have to look at that as well when you consider what's happened to these witches, and I think it's a fairly balanced change. Right, on to racks. Racks have stayed the same. There are still 8 points a model, so a unit of 5 will still be 40 points. Liquefier guns are still 10 points, so if you take 2 of those, your unit is 60 points. So I think racks staying the same is pretty decent for Dracoric players. I think they'll be happy with that. The next thing was the Court of the Archon. Now, a lot of people were taking 4 Slith, 4 Urgul, and that has not changed. The points of the Slith are still 18 points a model, and Urgul is still 16, so Dracoric players will be very happy with that. Splintered Genius and Showstealer have stayed the same, so a Master Archon and a Master Succubus still cost exactly the same points, but Hecatrix Bloodbrides and Trueborn are now plus 3 points a model, and I believe they were only plus 2 points a model before. So now every Hecatrix Bloodbride is 15 points. You'll be paying 15 points per witch. At that point, when you're like, ooh, they're toughness 3 with a 6 up invulnerable as their defense when they get shot, maybe I shouldn't be taking too many of these in my army. And then Trueborn at 11 points a model before you put guns on them. Fair change. Fair change. Grotesques are 35 points a model, 40 with liquefier guns. I believe that's a decrease in points. I'm not quite sure. I think they were 40 before liquefier guns and stuff, but now they're 40 with them. That's a beast of a change for them. Incubi up by 2 points a model. I believe Incubi was 16 points. 16 points a model. So a unit of, yes, I believe they were definitely, because a unit of 5 was 80 points. Now a unit of 5 is 90 points. So a 2-point increase per Incubi. Very good, because their damage output was insane for their points. 2 points increase, 10 points over a unit of 5. Very fair. Hellions have stayed exactly the same. They've not changed. They're 17 points a model. I'm very happy with that, both as a Dracoric player and someone who plays against Dracoric. I think going over 17 points would hurt them a little bit too much. I think 17 points is right for them. Then on to the last few units here. Chronos and Talos. So Chronos are 75 points a model, still very good for their points if you play them right. Talos at 100 before you put upgrades on them, very fair too. Raiders. Now, Raiders started off at 85 points with the Darklands on them. Then they went to 95 points with the Darklands on them. Now, a Raider is base cost 95. So it's 95 points, and then a Darklands is 10 points. You're paying 105 points for a Raider. Now, when you look at that, you go, oh man, they keep going up, and are they even viable anymore? Do we maybe look at Venoms instead? Which I'm like, yeah, maybe you do look at Venoms now and see whether they are more viable than a Raider, because they're a lot cheaper now than a Raider. 30 points if you only take the 1 Splinter Cannon on them. You know, they're 75 instead of 105. Maybe that's the way that Dracoric players will start looking at their army. But if you look at it, yes, Raiders have gone up and you're like, oh man, 105 points, is that even worth it? But when you compare them to other people's transports, I think you'll find it a very fair comparison. Rhinos being 80 points. So 80 points and you're 105. So for 25 points, you are gaining the fly keyword and the ability to go over ruins, which is so powerful. You're gaining a 5+ invulnerable save. Again, so powerful. Makes you very survivable. When you get shot by anti-tank weapons, just shrugging 33% of them off is a powerful ability. And then having a lance shot instead of a storm bolter that is still strength 8, -3 or 4, and D3 +3 damage. Nothing to be sniffed at. Raiders are still good. Just you need to think about what you're going to put in your army. So with that being said, the common units that people are using, a unit of 5 Incubi is up 10 points. A unit of 5 Witches is up 10 points, and 10 Witches is up 20 points. A Raider is up by 10 points. And then Succubus are up by 20 points. So when you look at all these units that people are taking in their army, when you consider how many units of 5 people had in their army, like Dracoric players had 3 units of 5 Incubi, that's 30 extra points. 3 units of 5 witches or a couple of units of 10. That's another 40 to 50 points increase there. 5 or 6 raiders in their army. That's another 60-point increase. They're going to have to drop some stuff somewhere. So now it's not going to feel as overbearing when you're playing Ancient Dracari army. You will hopefully be able to trade with them fairly well now. You know, they're going to have to take a good chunk out of their army and then see what they're left with, I think, which I think we'll find their army is going to be about the same size as everybody else's army now, which can only be great for the game. So those are the changes that this new balanced data slate has brought out, which I think are pretty cool, man. Let's see where the meta shifts to now. I think there will be some changes over the next few days. I will release another video telling you which armies are right up there now and are going to be rocking at the top of the meta with these changes in effect. I hope you've enjoyed this video, guys, and the in-depth look at the balanced data slate. I hope it was very helpful for you all. If you haven't already and you've watched this far, please hit that subscribe button, notifications bell in the corner over there to support the channel, and also so that you get notified every time we release one of these videos. If you're enjoying this content and you would like more in-depth meta-analysis and you would like great discounts off our web store, or if you would just like to support the channel, then please head over to glasshammergaming.co.uk and join the elite. And until the next video, guys, stay safe, play loads of Warhammer 40k, figure out all your new lists, and I'll see you later, guys.